The Cowboys have done very, very little in NFL free agency. There are still, though, some free agents who are potentially helpful and cost-effective for what the Cowboys' self-imposed limitations are. Of course, if you have doubts about whether or not the Cowboys will sign any of the names we're about to talk about, I get it. It's a very frustrating situation. Will the Cowboys sign any more outside free agents? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Sound off and speak your mind in the comments section. Let's go through some players here. We'll begin on the defensive line side. Calais Campbell, I think, will be a bit more expensive than what Dallas likes, but given the complete lack of depth this team has on the interior of the defensive line, I would have interest. He can help me out as a run-stopping defensive end, can reduce inside. That would be intriguing to me. I just think the money might be an issue. Teair Tart is a run-stopping nose guard, of which this team has one on the roster in Mozzie Smith as of filming. The issue for Tart is he's overplayed his hand a little bit, I think. He was a bit of a problem child in Tennessee this year, got cut by them. Bengals brought him in for a visit, said, this is not a culture fit, actually. That's a red flag, but when you're into wave 3 or 4, whatever, of free agency, you kind of put yourself in a precarious spot with your available options. Linval Joseph, look, you want another big veteran run stopper on the interior, right? I think that is something this team has to find a way to do. And I will mention Linval, despite not playing very much this past year for the Buffalo Bills, he spent a lot of time with Mike Zimmer in Minnesota. Maybe he still has just a little bit left to give in the tank. How about a Cowboys legend, Carlos Watkins? Got hurt, missed a lot of time this past year, but he's done good things as a run stopper previously. Bringing him back actually could be a pretty decent idea. Lawrence Guy is not the player he was in his prime, but he could be able to help again with that run-stopping focus. He's a bigger body than some of the players on this roster, and I'm trying to find some much needed defensive line depth. Now, Jordan Phillips is a very large human being. This would truly be a run-stopping nose guard. You know, other players on this list, you could say maybe they're more 3 techniques, 5 techniques. That's certainly fine. The available nose guard list is super thin with Hankins now in Seattle, and I'd like to find a veteran to help out Mozzie Smith. You can be honest. I know how these votes are going to go. Do you like what the Cowboys have done in free agency so far? It's going to be no's. That's fine. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Go type in your N for no, or if you're different, Y for yes. Let's talk Andre Dillard here as we begin our offensive line conversation. Dillard was not very good this past year for Tennessee. No way around it. He straight up struggled. Now, maybe it was a scheme change issue. Shouldn't have been that big of a problem there. The available left tackles are profoundly thin. So I am doing my best to find somebody who's available, and Dillard stands out as a stopgap option, maybe if the draft does not go the Cowboys' way. Mekhi Becton is next up here, the Jets left tackle. Very curious what his market ends up looking like. Becton is the former first-round pick, the Will McClay special, impressive athlete for his size, has had injury problems, and has struggled when he's been out there. Again, it is now late March. My options are extremely limited. A more proven veteran, but one coming off injury issues, is David Bakhtiari. Maybe he's not a Jet with Aaron Rodgers. I think the medical would have to be cleared from that perspective, but it's a big enough name that if he stays healthy, could actually make some sense. Saints offensive lineman Andres Peters, play both tackle and guard, I think is a better option at guard. I wonder, though, if this team is trying to find a way to keep Tyler Smith at left guard, and they think he's going to be best there. If that's the case, okay. Pete might not make as much sense. Numbers dipped this past year. He's been better when he's at guard. Again, a former high-round pick out of Stanford. Fits the Will McClay special. Am I scraping some of the bottom of the barrels? Yes. But I am already kind of pretty limited on options. Now, if you want a Cowboys jersey, not from the Cowboys team shop, but through Fanatics, you can get one for under $100 when you go to chatsports.com/Cowboys jersey. Put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show. These are official Nike jerseys, by the way. Plenty of different players, Lamb, Parsons. Maybe you want to hold off on the Dak one. That's certainly fine too. Chatsports.com/Cowboys jersey. I'll make sure that link gets put in the comment section and the description of today's video. Kendall Lamb is next up. He subbed in with injuries along the Dolphins' offensive line and did some good things. I think what intrigues me most about Kendall Lamb, for some of the names you mentioned, this screams swing tackle to me. This, and I think the Cowboys would like to get a veteran swing tackle. They do that seemingly every single offseason. Lamb, I think, could check off that box depending on what his asking price looks like. Now, Connor Williams, the Cowboys legend again here, is very intriguing to me. He will be much more affordable if and when that medical gets checked out. That's why he's unsigned right now. The medical is a sizable red flag for Connor Williams. He's not trying to sign right now. He's trying to rehab instead. He had played really well, though, at center for the Dolphins before he went down. So because of that, I think it's a name to at least consider for Dallas if the medical checks out. This would probably be a post-June 1st potential signing, by the way. Now, Dalton Reisner was serviceable for Minnesota. Didn't allow a sack, but also allowed 30 hurries, which is a lot higher figure than what you would typically like to have out of your starting left guard. But the reliability factor is certainly still there to an extent. I think that if you plugged him in at left guard, you could do a lot worse. And maybe let him compete with like a TJ Bass or something for that starting spot, and at least gives you extra depth on the interior in the event of injury. So name a free agent who you want to see the Dallas Cowboys sign. Any player, any position, realistic names, please, though. Sound off in the comments section. I'm trying to find some more help along the defensive line. Edge rusher is certainly included there. And I think Michael Dana is an under-the-radar name who can do some run-stopping stuff for this team as well. And with Sam Williams, we'll see how he plays this year, but Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler gone, I'm looking for a fourth veteran option so I don't have to add edge draft pick to my lengthy needs list. And then if there is one I like, I can still take them. An intriguing name to me who did briefly overlap with Mike Zimmer is Yannick Ngakoue of the most recently the Chicago Bears. So there's the Matt Eberflus, former Cowboys assistant coach connection there. I think in the Dante Fowler role, 1 year, $3 million, that makes a lot of sense to me if he's willing to sign for something that cheap. Emmanuel Ogbah, who had previously been linked to the Dallas Cowboys as well, some years ago, his numbers have kind of fallen off. He's not the same guy he was in his prime. But if they're open to the 1 year, $3 million price tag range like it was for Fowler, maybe they aren't, which is insane to think about, but it's where we're at right now. I think Ogbah could also fit that mold. Carl Lawson would very much fit the price tag range for this team. Did not play much this past year for the Jets. When he has played, injuries have been a factor. He's actually played pretty well. So if you want that buy low, vet minimum style, maybe close to vet minimum style signing that I think could give you good return on your investment, you could win the deal, as the Cowboys love to do, Lawson stands out to me. And I wouldn't even be mad at that one. Kyle Van Noy had a surprisingly good year for the Baltimore Ravens, 9 sacks. I think that is more of a flash in the pan than anything given his age. But in 4 different spots, he's put up at least 5 sacks. Now, I think he could probably play some of that pass rushing, even stand-up Anthony Barr style linebacker stuff for Mike Zimmer, while still being able to be a more of a pure edge than Barr ever was. I'm intrigued by his fit in a Mike Zimmer defense. As he is now 32 years old, the market should be pretty limited for him. I'd say when, but they only did it one time. So if the Cowboys sign an outside free agent, we will have a video for you. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. The Cowboys have brought back Rico Dowdle. Despite that, I do think the running back market is an area this team will continue to look at. And J.K. Dobbins, after the draft, could be a very logical target for the Cowboys. Texas kid, has barely played football, 1-year deal, limited guaranteed money, let him rehab, get healthy, see what he can offer. And if you draft the right guy, you're not banking on him having to make any bucks. You can't do that. Dobbins kind of ends up being, to an extent, a luxury addition, where if he's cheap enough, maybe the Cowboys see some value. Now, if they want to draft a power back, maybe, and want to go with a speedier back, some names that make sense. Clyde Edwards-Helaire starts things off here for us. Has not been productive this past year. I think the scheme fit was not very good. Don't know if it's a great scheme fit for the Cowboys either, but former first-round pick does have some third down back value. So too does CEH's teammate, Jerick McKinnon, who put up okay numbers at times in Kansas City. Did overlap with Mike Zimmer, by the way. Feels like that's something also worth mentioning in these conversations. I'll put him in here for some of you. I do think the re-signing of Rico Dowdle probably takes the Cowboys out of the Ezekiel Elliott market. The things that Zeke has done well in recent years are also the things that Dowdle actually did a pretty decent job for last year, and I would argue should have had more opportunities to do them, by the way. No real buzz on a market for Zeke. That's not surprising when we're talking about from 4.2 to 3.5 drop-off in yards per carry. It's not a great thing. A under-the-radar name that kind of fits the J.K. Dobbins boomer bust mindset is Rashad Penny. He played pretty well when healthy in Seattle. He was never healthy. That was part of the issue. And then kind of fell out of favor in Philadelphia. Never got anything going. Swift overplayed him. Boston Scott outplayed him. Could be a decent buy low, under-the-radar, boomer bust signing at the running back position. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys have that much interest in a veteran wide receiver. We'll see if that changes. I would like to be wrong because I want to do something for this team. Odell Beckham, though, is the name that's always linked to them. He did take a visit on Thursday to the Miami Dolphins. We'll see what materializes from that, but I'd rather find someone, ideally a draft pick, who offers a bit more juice athletically at this stage in OBJ's career. Some safeties. The safety market's still doing pretty well, guys. Justin Simmons maybe looking for a bit more than he'll end up getting. Maybe the market drops into the right price tag range. He's an instinctual football player, and Mike Zimmer loves those guys. I would have interest. Quandre Diggs, also on this list. Again, smart football player. You saw some drop-off in his play this past season. He was expensive for Seattle. That's why he got cut. He had been linked more speculatively in years past to Dallas. The last time we thought he was kind of on the decline, the Seahawks traded for him, and he played really well. Maybe there's part 2 of that version. Jamal Adams, I will also include here because, we're all enough to remember those Jamal Adams rumors, as crazy as they once were. Thanks, Seattle, for giving up 2 firsts that the Cowboys were never going to do, and none of us wanted to do either. Injuries have really caused a problem for him. Some of the social media comments have rubbed people the wrong way as well. But my biggest issue, I don't need another safety who thinks he's a linebacker. I have those guys already. Stephon Gilmore, one of the few internal free agents I still have interest in bringing back for the Dallas Cowboys. Why not Gilmore? You do that, you are in great shape short-term at cornerback. I think it makes a lot of sense for all parties involved if the money works out. So what is the percent chance the Cowboys bring back Stephon Gilmore? Sound off for me in the comments section right now. Another veteran corner to keep an eye out for is Patrick Peterson, thanks to some connections from his time over the past few years in the NFL. The prime version of Patrick Peterson, I don't really think is going to ever return. I think that's kind of an unrealistic ask, but he did play for Mike Zimmer, however brief that time was. Maybe Zim thinks he can make the most out of him. The same way with another former first-round pick at corner who had such a great career with Mike Zimmer in a second stint, Terrence Newman. Trey White, the medicals matter a lot here. He's taking visits. We'll see how those materialize as well. If the medicals check out, maybe somebody else ends up adding him. If they don't, they could always revisit later on. but I wouldn't mind a veteran outside corner. Just throwing that out there. Xavier Howard is next up on the list. Again, he can do some man coverage stuff. He's lost a step too, but I think is intelligent enough as a football IQ guy to fit with what Mike Zimmer would prefer to do on defense. He said he'd take less to join a contender. He's going to take less no matter what, by the way. Adoree Jackson, the former USC corner who Dallas did like a decent amount coming out. He was a first-round pick by Tennessee. Not the biggest guy, but I think could offer some inside-outside flex. And even with Jordan Lewis back and Deron Bland under contract too, I think makes some sense for Dallas. CJ Henderson, former first-round pick. Nice size, not a good tackler. Maybe that fits Mike Zimmer, maybe it doesn't. Has not lived up to expectations, by the way, which I do think is a pretty sizable red flag. But as a buy low option, sure, why not?